Hey there, this is Perch. What's the value of a letters page? So this is a topic that was suggested, and it's one of those ones that for comics forever have had a back of the issue letter page where people can write in. And then over the years, recently they've experimented with a couple new things. A couple books have experimented with just publishing tweets. Champions has done this, and a couple others have tried just kind of tying themselves social media. It always comes off a little awkward. I mean, you're taking a tweet, you're then publishing it and printing it on paper in a book, and it's going to be months later. I mean, in best case, you're talking 6 weeks later. The tweet's going to be in the title. It's going to be shipped, and so it unfortunately tweets age. I mean, there's this aged poorly joke for tweets that wind up being hypocritical or come back on the author. That's aging poorly. But in terms of just the content itself, it all ages poorly. I mean, with tweets, something that's 2 days old feels old. So, getting it into comics is, yeah, I mean, it's cute. It's kind of like the comics saying, "Hey, remember us? We know social media," but I mean, it just doesn't come off well. So, um, but the letters page isn't needed anymore, and the cruel short answer is no. It it's something that a lot of long term comic readers and I mean, as you've guessed by now, I am a long time comic reader, fan, seller, love the industry to death. It's deep in my heart, and so I of course have nostalgia for all of these things. No prizes and letter pages and those that junk catalogs you used to see in the comics. Hostess fruit pie ads, all these things. Definitely have that nostalgia. But the reality is, the letters page holds no value at this point. You can read through it. You can, 4chan can prank it, certainly all the time. Um, but it's not. It is not useful. It's in today's social media and communication world. It's even more dated when the letters are talking about a few issues back, and it's the company is are curating these letters, so they're not going to publish really negative things. They're going to publish generally positive comments, some fan questions, but the whole thing. Letters have always been a little awkward because the and they've been awkward since probably mid 80s on. There's a period there in the 70s and 80s when the letters page would have people writing in and kind of expressing some of their emotion and feelings about the character and kind of what they liked or didn't like. And so it added a little bit of depth. But the questions were always awkward because, some poor writer editor are answering these questions. But, first off, it's the moment in time of where the letter page exists is really strange. So the letter is being written from 3 issues, 4 issues back. It's printed in this current comic, and then questions are being asked about storyline developments for future comics, which may or may not have already happened from where the letter writer originally was. And then the writer editor has to come in and basically tease something that's coming down the road some X number of months away. And it winds up fitting in the uncanny valley of feedback. It's not, in terms of communication, it just does not work. And I think that a far better if you're going to have a letters page or a commentary page, a better use of that might be to reprint reviews that people have, or blog entries, or kind of from the fan community, kind of history or related content to the comic. Like if it's a book featuring Green Lantern, an essay that somebody writes on the value of Green Lantern through the ages. So you basically solicit fan content that can be printed in the book there. But the letter page is not useful. What a smart comics publisher would do, and I think the smaller guys should absolutely do this, is print your comic, get to the back, and have a one page, very nicely designed, very tight, very clever, um, you know, basic push to get your reader onto a website, onto a mobile app, onto something. So talk up the community, talk up the, hey, kind of like Miller does in Miller World with a bunch of the announcements coming up of Here's some signings from the creative team that are coming up. That would be good. Just kind of a page of that, a little blurb of here's where you can download an app and chat with other people on the message board. Here are the creators on Twitter. Of course, that's a double-edged sword, but here's where you can go interact with them, and basically have it be a one-page guide to where the experience can expand in real time, in current modern time, and not try and have this odd kind of letter moment that's happening in the comic. I say again, as a long-term fan, just saying this out loud is a little bit heartbreaking to me. Comics and the letter page in the comics is something that is it's a tradition, and that's why largely it's still done. But it's just increasingly awkward. It's awkward because as some titles are coming out, you know the title is not going to survive. Maybe it's issue 4, and the title is just barely bordering on cancellation. And so but the letter page is like, I'm the biggest fan of this comic. It's the most wonderfulness, and it feels really off. It doesn't match the situation of the comic. It doesn't do it any good. And they start to wonder how many of these letters are being written by Marvel or by DC themselves, because some of the over the top fawning praise for storylines that are clearly bombing in the marketplace, it feels very disconnected. Who are these people? For the record, by the way, I've had friends. I still have friends. A few. That's always sounds weird saying it that way, but I have some friends who've helped put the letter pages together for these companies and been kind of responsible for some of the back and forth there. And they assure me, no, these are real letters, and I do believe it. I don't believe the conspiracy theory that somebody at Marvel is taking the time to write a fake letter and put it into the comic. It has happened from time to time where a creator on the book writes a letter, under a pen name, but in many cases they're pranking and trolling, their own publisher, not the rest of the fans. They're doing that. There's a very I don't know if this is a public story or not. I think so. A pretty famous writer, mostly DC, a little bit Marvel, who used to write letters into other comics as a way of pranking the creative teams on those comics. They do things like every third word would create a new sentence, or it's just a joke in stuff. But that's rare. That's not the norm. Most letters are written by real people. I do believe it, but it's just not valuable anymore. It's not bringing what it could, that space could be used for something else. We'll put it that way. And I'll say another thing. If you are one of the people who believes that the publisher are writing the letters themselves to hype and promote up the book, I would ask you this. Do you really think they take the time to do that when they can't even take basic time to do things like check spelling errors or fix basic grammar inside the book? You think they're going to also take the time to write a letter? No way. These people are not taking that time to promote anything. And so the idea of them writing a letter, I mean, that's just crazy talk there. But I think it's time to go digital. It's time for the letters and that whole fan community to really embrace digital and have it stop being an awkward shoehorned in thing, and really go for it. And of course that loses a part of our history, and that's a shame. So this is a, drop a little bit on the ground for the letter page. Its time has come to an end. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you agree? You disagree? Think I'm crazy? A heretic? Let me know. Subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Follow me on social media and send me topics. Thanks for this one.